Hello, my friends. We are again going into the book of First Samuel. Please join me there in 5 minutes. 5 minutes, y'all. where is your tea? Cassandra knew that she had to bring tea today. Where's your tea? There we are. Perfect. Everything's working good then. How's everyone doing?
Okay.
Yeah, really good.
Good. Cassandra, you gave last week a watch. What did you think of Yanni? I thought it was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, I thought it went pretty well. It seems like you guys probably could have just kept talking for hours and hours.
Yes. Yeah. Look at this. I love it. I am fun. Yes, exactly. Lots of fun. Yanni has agreed. I'll be having a conversation with him soon regarding trolling and porn bombing and catfishing. We're going to talk about all that good stuff. So I look forward to that. Yanni, you are always welcome to join in as well. You don't have to. Michael is sick, just so everyone knows, or taking a sick day. Whichever.
I mean, yeah. I'm not at 100%, but that's okay.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we will jump into the Bible, unless you guys have anything you want, any statements, manifestos, perhaps 900-page books you'd like to read before you get to it. Look at that. Do you see this, Cassandra?
Oh, this one.
That what looks like a.
It's not really.
Like, that looks like the package you put into your.
It looks
printer.
like a phone book.
Yeah. That is his book.
Yeah.
900
We will,
pages?
in fact, be talking about. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no.
No,
Go ahead.
yeah. It's 800 pages. It's 800 smaller pages. I mean, it is a long book, but I don't know.
All right. Well, we will get. Okay. Maybe we should. I have to start reading it. So once I read it, maybe we'll talk about sections of it. That would be fun. We will, in fact, Joseph, talk about it because the term catfish and troll is oftentimes not what people think that it's from. I can see that Yoav and Joseph are watching us. So this is what a beautiful day to be corrected by our Jewish brothers. Wonderful. I'm going to share this. We're going to get into this story. So Saul is about to go into battle. It's going to be real bad. And David is on the side of the Philistines. And you can ask Yon God what Philistines means against the Philistines. And he already knows that he's going to die. But either way. So Cassandra, could you read for us?
Now the Philistines had gathered all their forces at Aphek, and the Israelites were encamped by the spring that is in Jezreel. As the lords of the Philistines were passing on by hundreds and by thousands, and David and his men were passing on in the rear with Achish, the commanders of the Philistines said, "What are these Hebrews doing here?" And Achish said to the commanders of the Philistines, "Is this not David, the servant of Saul, king of Israel, who has been with me now for days and years? And since he deserted to me, I have found no fault in him to this day." But the commanders of the Philistines were angry with him, and the commanders of the Philistines said to him, "Send the man back, that he may return to the place to which you have assigned him. He shall not go down with us to battle, lest in the battle he become an adversary to us. For how could this fellow reconcile himself to his Lord? Would it not be with the heads of the men here? Is this not David of whom they sing to one another in dances? Saul has struck down his thousands, and David his 10,000s."
Okay, let's pause there. That's a great little opening. So David is on the other side, and David would have been forced to go into battle on the side of the Philistines. But the Philistines think to themselves, no, because he could switch back sides. In fact, that's how he could be, again, in good favor with Saul, is if he shows up with our heads. Now, look at this over here. So it says, as the lords of the Philistines were passing on by hundreds and by thousands, that seems to me to echo this: Saul has struck down his thousands and David his 10,000s. So they are remembering David as a great warrior, but it's specifically as a warrior that was a pain in their behind. That's kind of the opening to it. Anything else you guys notice there?
I mean, I was just thinking about how, like, we're probably not, when we read it, we probably don't really think about it, like, in the right, like, gravity of the context. Like, you know, it's like, if this would be like, you know, if it's World War II and it was like, our American general has gone over to work with the Germans or the Japanese or something, like
Right.
that. And like, and obviously, like, David was kind of, you know, sabotaging them. You know, we learned that earlier the whole time, but just the appearance of it, like, would have been so weird probably for like the regular Israelites and stuff.
Right. And this is a trope in a lot of like spy movies, right? The guy who switches sides but never actually switched sides. He just, you know, like the double cross. So wait, I thought you switched sides. Nope, just waiting, just biding my time. The narrative is setting this up for a particular reason, which is different. I think the lords of the Philistines are actually correct, because in a previous chapter, remember, David was actually raiding the Philistines and the Philistines' allies and saying he was raiding Israel's allies.
Yeah. I mean, they are right, but that was what I was talking about. So like, the appearance of it is weird, but it's just,
yeah.
I mean, I guess it's showing because this Ashish guy just, you know, well, I guess as long as the plunder's coming in, you know, you're not gonna look too closely at, you know, who's minting the coins or whatever, you know, like where they're coming from. So, like,
now,
you know, which means
I have another theory. Go ahead.
Oh, well, I'm just saying, like, because, you know, and I guess, you know, his tribe among the Philistines was benefiting. David was attacking other groups of Philistines, so like it was, you know, like it's because it's not like they had nation states where there was no federal government of the Philistines. Like, they got all together to attack Israel, but for the most part, it's like, you know, you know, there's many tribes, just like how in Israel, and they were not always so united.
Yeah, no, for sure. The other reason why I think this story is set up this way is something that I've talked to Cassandra Yu about, is the idea that Judah and Benjamin, there would be a split where there will be kind of a civil war against the tribes. And so I think part of the function of this is saying David had nothing to do with the death of Saul. So even if he's not the guy who killed Saul, he's also not even in the battle. He is not going to be anywhere near this fight that Saul loses, because the text, part of its function is I think saying the civil war is stupid. It's like, were we not brothers? Are we not on the same side? Even the Philistines recognize that David is Saul's servant. So that's one of the things that I've kind of been playing with in my head.
All right. It makes it funny in the next section where David says, "What have I done that you're sending me back?"
Right. It does seem kind of strange, but I think it's trying to make it seem like, yeah, he's absolutely distanced, and it's not because he's the best warrior. This is really, really pro David. We'll say that. Okay, let's continue on.
Then Achish called David and said to him, "As the Lord lives, you have been honest, and to me it seems right that you should march out and in with me in the campaign. For I have found nothing wrong in you from the day of your coming to me to this day. Nevertheless, the lords do not approve of you. So go back now and go peaceably, that you may not displease the lords of the Philistines." And David said to Achish, "But what have I done? What have you found in your servant from the day I entered your service until now, that I may not go and fight against the enemies of my lord the king?" And Achish answered David and said, "I know that you are as blameless in my sight as an angel of God. Nevertheless, the commanders of the Philistines have said, he shall not go up with us to the battle. Now
Okay,
then,
pause
rise early."
1 second. Like, look at this. This is so pro David, and look at the way. If I was a lot more skeptical, I would say that this is pro David propaganda. Though 2 Samuel certainly isn't. This section, look, the leader, this tribal leader of the Philistines, who does he swear by? As Hashem lives. That is the divine name right there. He invokes the divine name. And then, speaking of David, he says, "I know you are as blameless in my sight as an angel of God." Right? Like, this is pretty extreme in the pro-David side, and speaking the way that an Israelite would understand pro-David. Right? He doesn't say, "As Dagon my God lives." He says, as Adonai, as Hashem lives, you have been honest. Like, it's strange to me.
Yeah, David really charms everyone, I guess. Like, why does he love him so much?
Yeah.
Well, he loves. Well, I mean, so. I mean, this is obviously informing us that not all Philistines are bad Philistines because of whose name, Achish is invoking. And it's those people to whom David appeals. The people who serve God have a great affinity for David.
That's an interesting way of. I really like that, Michael, because it's far more positive than my perspective, which is this: David feels like a Mary Sue in this chapter. It's like, and everyone loved him, right? But I like your perspective that's actually saying, no, these guys who are against Hashem and those who are against God, they aren't on side with him. Yoav?
Yeah, comment about names, as usual. Achish is an attested name. We have an archaeological finding, an inscription of the Philistine with some names of kings, and the name of Achish is mentioned there. It is a bit of a later period, just the end of the period of the Philistines, but one can assume that the name of a king will cycle through the ages, like you have a King Henry, and you can have another King Henry after 300 years and nothing
Right.
about it. So it isn't a real name. There was a king called Achish. The problem that is when it is inscribed in stone, all you have is 4 letters. You have the A and the C and the I and the S. And that leaves you the possibility of either reading it as Achish or Achish. And I see that the Hebrew translation insisted to call him Achish, and I think it means that they think very highly of him. I mean, we really think of him as a very good, God-loving king. If they didn't like him, they will call him Achish, and then that will make David very happy. You know why call him Achish will make him make you very happy.
Well, I just looked up. It's saying that the name, depending on how you translate it, could mean angry, could mean he was afraid, could mean gift of God, or majestic. So majestic, gift of God, or angry, or he was afraid are very different translations of the name.
No, this is not how I read it, sorry.
No, okay, go ahead.
Because Akish is a very simple word. Akish means I will bite like a snake.
Oh.
Yep.
Yoav, you know what was the first act of Saul as a good king? It was killing Nahash.
I know, this is why I mentioned it. I mean,
that's beautiful.
Exactly why I mentioned. So if the Hebrew tradition would not have loved the kid so much, they would have called him Akish. But they're calling him Achish because he was a good one. He just got a bad name for his ancestors.
Oh, that's so. What is happening in this text? That is so good. That makes me so happy because I'm so interested in this Messiah. Because before we talked as well about bronze being like related to snake as well. To bite like a snake is going to be the downfall of Saul. Okay.
Yeah, a riddle that I cannot solve at the moment is the word used for the commanders of the Philistines. There are two words that are used in the text interchangeably. One, it would translate it in modern Hebrew as a minister, and the other would be translated in modern Hebrew as a high rank in the army. And I use the interchangeably, and I cannot at the moment decipher when they're using this one word and when they're using the other. Something about the titles to the ministers of the Philistines that is clear about it, and some other day needs to have to be deciphered.
Okay.
Yon God was saying something about it was comparing to modern times with comparing David to Bibi Netanyahu or whatever. The story that is going to follow is almost like the story of the war that started a year ago. It's the war that started in the south a year ago is almost a copy of what we're going to read at the moment. So then I will relate to it after we read it.
Well, that definitely puts your perspective pretty clear, like makes your perspective very clear. Yeah, look, you're making, Yanni is very happy with you.
It's going to make me blush.
All right. Well, we could insult you if that would make you feel more comfortable.
It will be more like the internet, you know.
Yes, yeah. Now he's trolling us with kindness.
Yeah.
Yosef, let me see your face before I show you. Yeah, that's a real Yosef.
Just had a very bad angle, so it doesn't make sense for the camera. It usually overheats on my dash. I had to go and come back, but did you guys talk about how this phrase of Saul hit his 1,000 or killed his 1,000 and gave his 10,000s is this like repeating refrain? It keeps coming up in different stories.
Yeah. So talk to me about it.
I mean, I don't have a ton about it. It's just so striking to me. Right, we're gonna have 3 or 4 stories. I think 3 in Samuel 1, and maybe once later that it gets kind of repeated again.
Yeah.
But we have this kind of, and it serves, like you said, like, well, here it's echoing this, we have the hundreds and the thousands of Philistines marching, but kind of in each of these scenarios, it plays like its own role. It's almost like I wouldn't say it's like a character, it's not quite a motif. I don't know exactly what this literary technique is called, but if you keep reading back, it's kind of like, well, you were talking about like that the other day, right? So you kind of have this like curse that keeps coming back, right? So here you have this piece, which, is both, it's praise of David here. Other places, right? We know it incites Saul's wrath, essentially, or his jealousy. Right? It's this very kind of interesting.
It's a meme.
It's a meme, but it's like a dual usage meme, right? Because it kind of has these two sides where it both. Like one could say, it's a praise of Saul, but because of its relativity to David, it's also kind of, it's a word for Hebrew. I don't know what it is in English.
I mean, I think I really do think it is like a classic kind of example of a meme, because you think about it, because they're saying this is what they sing in their dances. So it's telling you how it's spread. It's spread because it's music and it's catchy and it's easy to remember. And it's like it has a life of its own. And that phrase, and it's like this phrase is more true than whatever the fact checkers have to say as far as like the political landscape of the whole situation. And it drives Saul nuts because of the relative aspect of it. But like, what can you do? Like, it's more true than whatever he thinks the truth is. In the way that
maybe it's a good example. It's a 2-panel meme. You get that, one, this first panel, the second panel, and that even though normally, I can think of the big brain meme or the 2-choice meme, right? Like there's always kind of that contrast there, and it kind of is doing that same effect. Yeah, this highly reductive kernel of something.
That it was also a song, like the idea that it was a chant, or like this was top 40 of the day, right? Like this became such a popular song.
Yeah, well, because you think about like Saul, being all affected by music, and like the music cast out the bad spirits. But then is he walking around the palace or whatever, and he's just like hearing the servants humming this? Like, I wonder if there was like a recognizable melody that you didn't even have to say the words that would, bring this up.
I really like that a lot, Michael, where it's like there's a music that drives him crazy along with a music that calms his soul.
Like, I think wasn't Yankee Doodle like one of those around the Revolutionary War time or something, like, and you could just play the song on a pipe or whistle it or hum it or whatever. You didn't have to say the words. People know what you're talking about just from the tune.
Right. Glory, glory, hallelujah is that way. Fascinating. Thank you for bringing that up, Joseph. Do you think there's anything else to that little little meme?
I mean, if I wasn't like driving and like had some time to like look at it a little bit, I mean, because it's more than just the song. It's more than just the song, right? Like every time the song is quoted, it's quoted like with this little intro of as I can't remember what it is. I'm driving first. I can't read the little screen, but something like as the girls in their circle dances, respond to each other.
Yeah.
Right? I can kind of I have the phrase like half in my head at the moment, but like right. So it's more than just a song. It's like it's contextualized and it's remembered in this way. Is like, I mean, it's probably it's the song that was played, whatever, like during. And it's not the song that we associate, right? We have this idea of like, David dancing, later with the ark. That's not this song, right? This is this earlier triumph song. I'm kind of picturing it's totally the wrong time. So like a Roman triumph where the general comes into the city with all the booty, and there's special rituals and songs and instruments that are used to celebrate that. To me, it's kind of sort of what's probably this is from, but like we're getting. Yeah.
Well, and that is what's just about to happen. He's just about to go to battle and bring back all the booty.
I wonder if we could say maybe like some of it is in a sense like a revelation, like like in a sense, whoever first we don't know who coined it, but whoever coined it, in a sense, it was revelation in that it was a understanding of like something that was self-evidently true, and everybody who heard it latched onto it immediately. And so it's like kind of like a prophetic word or something. But
that is so interesting because it's so early on. He hasn't even killed the tens of thousands. Like it's after the Goliath incident where it occurs, and it is lined up with madness, I think, also, because this is the chant that drives Saul mad. But then the next time it's brought up is when David is on the run and he has to pretend to be mad. He pretends to be mad the first time he runs away, and they say, is this the man? And then that's where they say, are we running short on madmen? That story has the meme, the replay of the song as well.
You mentioned David singing, and then I don't know if you know that song by David Crowder, "Undignified," but it's a song based on what David says, and now it's stuck in my head.
Yeah. That's a good earworm. It's a good earworm. I love how short it is, though. There's something to the meme on how short it is. Have you guys ever listened to the spirituals, the slave songs that people used to sing in the fields, and they loop? You could sing them for like an hour straight. They're just perfect earworm.
I have a book about that somewhere here. It might be in another place. I didn't finish it. I should read some more of it.
I got to disagree with Hezi here. There's an interpretation that the song wasn't Saul's glory. He killed more with less men.
Yeah.
But then why did it drive him mad?
Maybe it was an assault on his masculinity.
You got Macbeth on the mind. Yeah. Okay, let's continue in the text, because I do want to get the next chapter as well, and I by golly, I think we can do it.
Okay, now then rise early in the morning with the servants of your Lord who came with you, and start early in the morning, and depart as soon as you have light. So David set out with his men early in the morning to return to the land of the Philistines, but the Philistines went up to Jezreel.
Okay, I always mention this. This is a big thing within Judaism, the notion that Abraham rises early on the day he's supposed to sacrifice Isaac. And that Lot, in contrast, sleeps in. And so when characters do things and they are committed and they are righteous, it always says that they rise early. Or when someone does something that they are committed to and fully wanting to do. Yeah, see, this is Hezi is the defending my honor. Correct. So this idea of him rising up early, it may just seem like a very small thing, but the commentaries make a big deal of this, of like, okay, so David is just leaving. He's not even doing anything. But does he leave slowly? No, he gets up early. He's on his way. Any other comments before we go into the next little bit? It was just one verse. So, what am I supposed to get from you guys? Okay, Cassandra, keep going.
Now when David and his men came to Ziklag on the third day, the Amalekites had made a raid against the Negeb and against Ziklag. They had overcome Ziklag and burned it with fire, and taken captive the women and all who were in it, both small and great. They killed no one, but carried them off and went their way. And when David and his men came to the city, they found it burned with fire, and their wives and sons and daughters taken captive. Then David and the people who were with him raised their voices and wept until they had no more strength to weep. David's 2 wives also had been taken captive, Ahinoam of Jezreel and Abigail, the widow of Nabal of Carmel. And David was greatly distressed, for the people spoke of stoning him, because all the people were bitter in soul, each for his sons and daughters. But David strengthened himself in the Lord his God.
This is just so good. Isn't this narrative compelling? Wow. Who are they fighting against? The Amalekites. Who is going to kill Saul? It's going to be an Amalekite. Why was Saul rejected as king? Because he spared the Amalekites, right? So while David is not fighting Saul, David is going to go off and have this side quest where he is defeating Amalekites, right? It's
It's just putting something together. Thinking about so definitely there's this thing with the Amalekites as being like, these are like the true enemies of Israel. But we so often think of the Philistines as like Israel's primary enemies or whatever. Or like they're, they get more screen time, I guess you could say. But then like thinking back, in that previous chapter with Ashish, praising the name of the Lord, like Dagon's statue falls before the Ark of the Covenant. It's not to say they don't still believe in Dagon, but the wise among them have maybe dog, stop.
No, maybe you're completely right, because it says that the priest of Dagon, now they act in a very special way when crossing the threshold of their temple, because he fell. So they change how they worship because of what happened.
The Philistines are not supposed to be eliminated. They're supposed to be a nation, whose them and their God is subservient to the God of Israel.
Yeah. Hezi is very much on your side right now. Okay, so continuing in with that, look at him as a character, right? So they show up. It's that scene from Mulan. You guys know the scene from Mulan, right? Where they come across the village. Mm-hmm. It's all like burned and all that. It's just this huge. So they come across. It's been burned. All of the children have been taken. And just this line, then David and the people who were with him raised their voices and wept until they had no more strength to weep. Like, it's a lot of crying. And then it says that the people are conspiring to stone David because they're right. Like, David has switched sides. So Israel has been fighting their own side, right? Judah has been fighting their own people. And now they're even rejected by the lords of the Philistines. And then it gets even worse from there. And so the people are ready to get rid of David. He seems to be more trouble than he's worth. But David strengthened himself in Hashem, his God. It's just everything you want in the scene right there. Cassandra, any comments there? Okay, let's continue then.
And David said to Abiathar the priest, the son of Ahimelech, bring me the ephod. So Abiathar brought the ephod to David, and David inquired of the Lord, shall I pursue after this band? Shall I overtake them? He answered them, pursue, for you shall surely overtake, and shall surely rescue. So David set out, and the 600 men who were with him, and they came to the brook Besor, where those who were left behind stayed. But David pursued, he and 400 men. 200 stayed behind, who were too exhausted to cross the brook Besor.
Okay, let's pause 1 second. So, David trying to figure out what he's supposed to do. Remember this contrast between David and Saul, right? In the two chapters ago, Saul is not getting a response from God. God is not speaking to him, no matter how he seeks him. So he seeks the Witch of Endor. But here, David is also doing this system, which is the permitted form of divination. So bring me the ephod, right? Bring that special shirt, right? Now the shirt itself is supposed to contain the Urim and the Thummim. So somehow he's practicing divination to hear from God, and God answers that he'll be successful. Do you guys have any thoughts on that at all?
Well, I mean, I don't know. What did it say? Like the full sentence, or did it say yes to both of those answers? Like, I don't know. However, this thing speaks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. How does the thing speak? Because this, you shall surely overtake and shall surely rescue. Like, what is it? Because some people, Yoav actually joined us in a conversation about what the stones were like, to what extent they were polished, because some people think one's white, one's black. You talked about color theory, Yoav, when we were first talking about this. But it does seem to give him a clear message. Yeah, this is great. The letters glow. That's one of the interpretations, is that they actually have the alphabet on them, and that when you did this, the Hebrew letters would glow. Needs the priest to interpret. That's great, because he didn't kill the priest. Because this is the priest, remember, this is the guy who died at the hands of Saul. Yeah, all these characters are coming back. It's not his fault, Michael. He's a doodle. They're all like that. Let me do a check-in before we continue on. Yoav?
Yeah.
Do you have any on this little section?
It cannot just be left aside how this story matches the recent history, because the location, the city of Ziklag, which is on the border of the desert, and within the territory of the Philistines, and next to the river Besor, is exactly where the war started last year. And it's exactly the same action of the Amalekites coming and taking captives. And then it is the immediate reflex of David's men. It's not the Israelites in general. It's David's army. And their immediate reaction is they want to fire him. The immediate action is not how are we going to overcome the situation. As who are we going to fire?
Whose head is on the chopping block for this? Yeah.
So much like current politics that it just cannot be true.
Mm-hmm. Fascinating.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wonder if it is like, just considering such a, like, I mean, are they wondering like why, like, we're Israelites, we're living in this place, it's not our home. Like, if they get rid of David, can they go back and join Saul, or is that, maybe what they're, what they're thinking, or like,
no, they're not thinking. They're not thinking.
Right. Yeah. Well, but I mean, that's like, that is that scapegoat thing, to like to lash out at whoever's fault it is. I mean, that's like Adam's first thing, blame the woman, right? So, the thing that really stuck out to me with that is the part where it says 200 men stayed behind who were too exhausted. And I'm thinking, If their wives are over there needing to be rescued, it's going to be rough after that. You were too tired to come get me yourself. No excuses for the rest of their marriage.
No,
Yeah.
this is how the story goes, because this is also the question of the salary. Will you give the same salary to the soldiers that stand behind and the soldiers that went to fight?
Yeah. Yeah. They better be really tired. Yeah, they're running from one place to another, so it kind of makes sense to me that they might be exhausted. Either way, Jason Schweizer, you have been summoned by something that we have spoken of. What summoned you?
I haven't. I am just trying to catch up. I was not even listening. I knew this was happening, and I was trying to get through this title search so I could join, and it just kept, when you're trying to rush, and then things just kind of keep getting worse and worse, and it just kept problem after problem. So I'm just I just wanted to join, but I don't really. I'm just now figuring out where you guys are at. Chapter 30, verse. I don't know. Somewhere around that.
We're at verse 11.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I think we'll continue on. This is an interesting part. Michael, I really like that you brought forward just what those husbands are going to be going through. Baby, I had heat stroke. I don't care, right? Because one of them was just like slightly tired. I just forgot lunch, guys. Jason, can you read this? Can you read this on the screen? Okay, cool.
They found an Egyptian.
Michael is always good to talk. That's why I don't get him to read as much.
Yeah.
So
I'm not the best reader.
Give us a read.
No. Okay, I'll go for it. They found an Egyptian in the open country and brought him to David, and they gave him bread and he ate. They gave him water to drink, and they gave him a piece of cake of figs and 2 clusters of raisins. And when he had eaten, his spirit revived, for he had not eaten bread or drunk water for 3 days and 3 nights. And David said to him, "To whom do you belong, and where are you from?" He said, "I am a young man of Egypt, servant to an Amalekite, and my master left me behind because I fell sick 3 days ago. We had made a raid against the Negeb, I guess, of the Perizzites, and against that which belongs to Judah, and against the Negeb of Caleb, and we burned Ziklag with fire." And David said to him, "Will you take me down to this band?" And he said, "Swear to me by God that you will not kill me or deliver me into the hands of my master, and I will take you down to this band."
Okay, let's pause a second. There's so much to this little thing. So it says when David leaves Achish that it takes him 3 days to return back where they find where the women have been taken. So what that means is that David is here to rescue them because he was sent away. Because the Philistines sent him away, he's able to be in the right place to rescue the women and the children.
Huh. I wonder if that has something to do with the, I feel like for some reason I'm just throwing this out there, shooting from the hip, that it might have some connection to do with the divination. Like right place, right time, just kind of by chance type thing.
Well, and that's the idea of coming across this guy. This guy just so happened to fall sick, so he was left behind. Without coming across this guy, in the Joseph story, there's someone who just so happens to know where the brothers are. Bleed like an Egyptian. That's
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Like walk like an Egyptian, but instead it's bleeding because this guy was left sick. So in the Joseph story, there happens to be a guy who just so happened to know where Israel was. And in some traditions, or where the other brothers are. In some traditions, it's so unlikely that he's considered to be an angel. So in a similar way, this guy is just left in an open field in a random place. They come across this guy, and he just so happens to know where they're going to be headed.
Yeah.
It's like it's all perfect, guys. It's all perfect for David to show up and to rescue. Any
I wonder,
comments?
I mean, it's an interesting thing too. Just thinking about, the thing that you and I were talking about on the other stream earlier about like, these things of like, even just being like, why am I getting sick? Like for those few days, how much did that guy think like this is terrible? Like I'm a slave, I'm in this other country, and my master's not a very good master, and now just because I get sick, he's just going to let me die rather than taking care of me. But I mean, I'm presuming from memory, this guy's going to live when his master and all them are going to die, and he's going to be in a much better place. So it's misfortune is the seeming misfortune of a moment can be very providential and beneficial for you at some later time.
Well, in 3 days and 3 nights without food or water, that to me is how long it takes to die of thirst.
For water, yeah.
So this guy is right on the brink of dying. He's just about to die when they show up.
It's almost like a death and resurrection there.
I don't want to negate your point about him being on the brink of death, because I do think you're right about that, but you don't die after 3 days without drinking. Just throwing it out there. I heard that my whole life too. That is absolutely false.
But what about when you're in the desert?
Maybe then you might die after 1 day. I'm just saying, especially when you're like not eating too, your body doesn't use as much water to break down stuff. So, because I've heard people tell stories about like, oh yeah, once you're fasting, you can go a week without drinking water too. And I used to think that was crazy, but I'm like, it seems totally plausible to me now. Especially once you're in that mode. Anyway, total sidetrack, but yeah, when you're in the desert.
No, I accept it. Okay. I still think that because he's fallen sick though, because this is also like what form of falling sick? Like this seems pretty bad. Not eating and drinking after 3 days and you are sick and you're left in the open country in the desert. Like this guy, I can't imagine is in a very good spot.
If he had the runs, he'd already be halfway dehydrated.
Yeah.
But I will say that this is a resurrection story, though. I think Michael is quite right. Because the people, the women and the children and this guy, they've all been taken for 3 days. It is 3 days of hell, okay, for them before they are rescued, before the tides are going to turn.
Yeah.
Okay, let's continue on. You know what, Michael? I will make you read. I'll make you read. So there.
Okay. And when he had taken him down, behold, they were spread abroad over all the land, eating and drinking and dancing, because of all the great spoil they had taken from the land of the Philistines and from the land of Judah. And David struck them down from twilight until the evening of the next day, and not a man of them escaped, except 400 young men who mounted camels and fled. David recovered all that the Amalekites had taken, and David rescued his 2 wives. Nothing was missing, whether small or great, sons or daughters, spoil, or anything that had been taken. David brought back all. David also captured all the flocks and herds, and the people drove the livestock before him, and said, "This is David's spoil."
Okay, let's pause right there. Yoav is seeing Yongod is seeing this as horrific, but from the perspective of the writer, David is wiping out all of the Amalekites and not sparing any of them. Remember, sparing the Amalekites is what Saul was guilty of. That when he was commanded to get rid of all of them, he wouldn't. And so David, even when he's on the run and not in a position of power, is doing the job that Saul should have done. David is acting how Saul should have acted in this story. And there's something beautiful in it where the Messiah brings back everything and nothing is lost.
Is it common to fight or whatever flee on camels? Because the whole
Camels are faster than horses.
Are they seriously? No way.
Yeah.
That's
over
wild.
short distances, a camel is actually faster than a horse, but they're very difficult. They're difficult animals.
Wow.
Well, first it's the desert. The camel is faster than a horse in the desert. Second, they didn't have today's horses. The horses of the time were quite useless. You can use them in a chariot, maybe, but not you cannot actually ride them very fast.
What Hezi said down there, the Amalek concept. What is the unpacking of that? Did you guys already touch on that at all, or?
No, I want him to show up. I want him to show up and explain himself. But Amalek
unpacked.
This is interesting to think about. So earlier today in the other stream, we were talking about Amnon, and like he turned out real bad and all that stuff. But Ahinoam is Amnon's mother, and I'm not guessing this was a pleasant 3 days for those wives. And and probably
Amnon may have been taken too. I don't know if Amnon is taken.
Yeah, I don't know if he was. It doesn't. Yeah, I don't know if he was born yet, or maybe she was pregnant, or what. But and also because the thing is you think because of that story with where he married with Abigail, and then I wonder if because Abigail is like a virtuous woman and seems like she should have been the one that should have been like a very good queen, like a partner to David. But I wonder if a thing like this, maybe out of him being compassionate, or affects what an experience like this, affects a woman deeply. I would say, perhaps, and I wonder if she was. I wonder if she was resentful towards David after, or it must have had an impact to where things weren't the same. Because both of those women were traumatized women after this for sure.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. I just realized something symbolically, which I know that Jason is just going to love too much. Amalek is condemned because when Israel was in the desert, they would not give them water. Okay? They battle Israel instead of giving them water and helping them out. So that on the way to fight the Amalekites, they find a guy who was an Amalekite servant. He's an Egyptian, and David gives him water. I think there's something to this.
Yeah, I'm sure you're right. I know it also says attacks the stragglers at the rear or something like that.
Right.
There's just I'm not quite. There's just that whole Amalek concept is so perplexing to me. I wish Hezi would unpack it. I think I've asked him to before, and I'm sure he has. And it's just there's certain things I'll ask people over and over. Can you explain this to me? And for some reason, my mind just doesn't quite grasp it yet, and I just think I need to hear it more and more. Because I mean the whole Amalek thing where God says, I still think it's kind of funny in a way because God says, "Remember to forget them."
Remember to forget them.
Yeah, yeah, but it's the one people that need to be absolutely forgotten. Then you have to remember to forget them. I don't know. It's just the whole thing is straight.
And the descendant of Amalek Agag is the king whose descendant is the genocidal maniac in the Esther story, right?
Yeah,
That's what I was wondering, because I'm reading through Esther right now, and I thought there was a connection with Haman or Haman and Amalek.
So Yoav turned me on to this. It's that Mordecai is a Benjaminite. So Benjamin, so a descendant of Saul and a descendant of the person Saul killed. Saul didn't kill Haman. Thank you, Hezi. Haman, and so it is again descendants of exactly these people that are fighting each other.
That's
it's like trying to redeem Saul.
It's just popping up, thinking about the thing with like the not offering water and stuff like that, and I think conservative Bible commentators or like theologians tend to like downplay a little bit, because like the progressive people will say that like the problem with God destroying Sodom and Gomorrah is because of a lack of hospitality, not because of the sexual sin, as if the two things aren't maybe connected in some way. But like, I think conservative thinkers tend to downplay the importance of that like lack of hospitality, and how seriously God takes that. Like, because it is a big deal. Like, so because actually it's like I put a little bit in the book, but the parable that Jesus talks about, the sheep and the goats, it's very closely based on this testament of Joseph from like that Second Temple period, which is like an expanded story of of Joseph's account and being in prison and being abandoned by his brothers and all this stuff. And it's like showing like, people have these labels, it's like we look, oh, this guy's a Philistine, this guy's an Egyptian, but you can, and sometimes those give you indications of a person's character, but what really tells you a person's character is, do they give you water when you're thirsty? Do they give you food when you're hungry? Or do they steal it from you? Do they, throw you in prison? And so it's very interesting. Like the text seems very intent on showing us to look beyond labels, to judge people based on their character. And,
and
actions
I was looking up something when we were on the Amalek story, the original one, I misspoke and said that they were serpent seed, that they were descendants of the giants, and I was completely wrong. It's not. They're not one of the giant clans. I couldn't find any reference that actually said that they were. But within the text, within rabbinic commentary, I found something that said not so much that someone was an Amalekite simply because of descent, that there was an element where someone could choose and through that choice become an Amalekite. And see, this is what Hezi is saying. To be clear, Amalek can repent and become a Noahide, and some say they can convert. So there's this idea that some of the descendants of Amalek actually turn away from those decisions, turn away from that evil, and then can become a descendant it's not just Noah, right? Is the idea that you could become part of the people of Israel, that you could join the tribe, because we're so stuck in this idea of genetic descent, where people talk about Jew as a ethnicity, not merely a system of belief. Right? And so that's why Hezi is saying Amalek is a mindset. So this is the notion of the non-hospitable, the evil person, the wicked man, and that you and I can become an Amalekite, right? And specifically in the way that the New Testament speaks of this directly, where it says that Cain became a descendant of the evil one. Cain was of the evil one. It describes Cain in the New Testament. And I think that this idea, which we've already hit on before, of the descendant of the woman, the descendant of the serpent, the Messiah being the descendant of the woman, and all this serpent metaphor and serpent imagery, the language in the Cain and Abel story could mean sin is at the door and it wants to make a baby with you. Because that word, its desire is for you, can be a lot. It means to be one with. It could do that by eating you, or it could do it. There's another way that we become one with something, right? So this idea that Yosef doesn't like this direction that I'm going in. Your desire will be for your husband. I don't think she wants to eat her husband. But either way, Amalek was condemned. What are you talking about? I'm mixing it with Moab.
That's not why Amalek was mixing it with. Oh, I think he's back at the part where you said they didn't come out with food and water, because that's what Moab and because they were Edom. I think Edom did the same thing or something like that. But
why is that?
I mean, Amalek, I'm sure didn't give them food and water either because they fought with them. But but they.
Jason, it's okay. It's okay. I'm fulfilling a prophecy. What is the? I'm fulfilling the commandments of God. Because I forgot.
Oh, okay. You forgot Amalek. Yeah.
I remembered to forget them, guys. It's okay.
I was here now. Someone popped up.
Okay, Yosef, what did Amalek do?
Amalek attacked the Jews as soon as they crossed the Red Sea.
Ooh.
They attacked them when they were specifically attacked them when they were weak. They attacked the back, the stragglers, and the sick and the old. And it has nothing to do with denying them water. That is the story. That is Edom and Moab and maybe Ammon. And there's plenty to say about that and Moab and the story of Ruth, which we did actually when we did the Ruth series.
Right.
That is not Amalek. Amalek is a tribe of raiders for the most part, and they sometimes work with Midian down in the south, but they are. Yeah. They attacked. I mean, there's a whole. I mean, you have to go back to the story at the sea when the Jews come out, but it's not. It's a totally other set of reasons.
Thank you.
Orcs?
Thank you for correcting.
I have a question. Can the mindset or the spirit of Amalek be like identified, pretty like condensed and identified as just like something, preying on the weak or something like that?
Yeah, preying on the weak is definitely their thing, and that's. I mean, here attacking women and children who are undefended is very much in that line. I mean, there's more to the Amalek story. You have to go through because, of course, like they come up in the Saul story. They come up through like there's a whole lineage of stories around Amalek that are worth understanding because this is part of that same line. Just like David mentioned, Agag and later Haman, right? I mean, whether spiritually or literally, right? They're all connected. I think there's the other. Right, there are other parts of this. I mean, I kind of just jumped in. I was not watching the whole time. I lost the signal, but David has to send. He's going to send his parents to live in Moab. So like, I don't remember if that happened already or it's going to happen already. But he sends them away because he's afraid of exactly this type of thing, and he's aware. And I don't know if he's aware because this happened and he does it after. If he was aware before, I don't remember. But I remember he has to send his parents away to protect them, and of course, not even to Israel. Right? He has to send them away from both Israel and from like other potential enemies. But he doesn't do that with his wife and kids, which is a very interesting kind of thing. Why he treated his parents that way, but not his own family. And then the other thing I was going to say, and as I said, I was not following, but the other major parallel here is Lot, right? Where we have Abraham has to go rescue Lot from the War of the Kings, and he gets captured. And there's a lot of parallel language that's being driven. I know we talked about Abraham earlier, being kind of, whatever, getting up early in the morning. There's some language there. But that language also comes up with other people that are less savory, like Balaam. And I mean, the rabbis certainly compared them both, they both have like this, diligent, like, excitedness, passion, whatever, to wake up early, to go off, one of them to sacrifice his son and the other to listen to God, but sacrifice his son, and the other one to to curse Israel. But yeah, no, so there's definitely like a lot of interplay here. But I think specifically probably with the Abraham story more than anything. There's a couple other references that I'm not, now that I'm home, maybe I'll sit down and follow a little bit more.
Because wasn't Abraham's journey 3 days too, something like that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Is Balaam 3 days? Balaam's not 3 days, is it?
I was just looking at Balaam.
It doesn't say how many days for him. It does. The only thing we get with him is something like he has 3 rounds of cursing, but we don't, each on their own day, but we don't really know how many days it takes him to travel and anything. And he has the three stops with the donkey.
So something that's really mysterious to me, I don't know what this will open up, but when Balaam's giving his prophecy, like he all of a sudden turns and looks at Amalek, and he says, Amalek was first among the nations, but shall be last until he perishes. Like I don't even know how to understand that.
You don't understand that sometimes the first shall be last, Jason? You've never heard of this concept before?
I mean, I have, but until he perishes.
He's also not the first, right? He's like the youngest born of the Esav Yishmael kind of intermarriage, and he's the son of a concubine or maybe a bastard of a. There's a whole bunch of kind of weird stuff there, but like he's definitely not the first in terms of firstborn. So it doesn't quite. It's a very weird passage. He's no more first than Israel is, right? And I mean, Israel's firstborn because God declares him firstborn, but like why Amalek has a weird position is not as.
Well, so I mean, I was just looking up because the Amaleks are one of the nations mentioned that Abraham when he rescues Lot. So like maybe they're first like into that land or something,
He's not mentioned there. He's not born yet. Those are different nations. Amalek's not mentioned until the genealogies of Esav, which is after Abraham's dad, after Isaac's dad.
I mean, I'm looking at here, Genesis 14. It says they defeated all the country of the Amalekites and also the Amorites.
So the land of the Amalekites is called the land of the Amalekites, but the person called Amalek doesn't exist yet. It's just
because you also get a reference, for instance, that a land is called Dan, but it's not Dan yet. Like Dan is named after Dan, the forefather. It's one of the difficulties of Genesis is some of the place names are what they will later be, not what they are at the time.
The editorial changes.
Yeah, I just wanted to remind you that there is an historical reference to the Luca people as being one of the sea people coming from the south Turkey. And the Luca people translate to Amalek. But it was always a loose collection of people. It was never a real nation. So it was never a race.
Yeah. Okay.
Interesting.
I would just like to make a comment. There's been an earthquake we see in the comments.
Yes.
A month ago, a rabbi, based on the book of the Zohar, gave a prophecy that exactly tomorrow there will be a strong earthquake in Jerusalem that will start the coming of the Messiah. He hasn't said anything about an earthquake in California or the Philippines, I'm afraid.
You say who? Sorry, who made the prophecy that tomorrow there'll be an earthquake?
A rabbi on the internet based on the Zohar. He made the prophecy a month ago. It's a calculation of 70 days from the day when which we killed Nasrallah in Beirut.
Okay, we will keep an eye on that. And if it turns out not to be true, we will throw rocks at this person until he is dead.
You
To
should.
fulfill the words of the Bible.
You should, but I will not give you his name.
Okay, I want to finish this text. So let's go. Thank you for sharing that. I will actually be checking. Yoav, they want to know which rabbi. Which rabbi? False prophecy. Isn't it? Okay. Either Jason or Michael. Give me a read.
I can. Is this where we left off, 21?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Then David came to the 200 men who had been too exhausted to follow David, and who had been left at the brook Besor. And they went out to meet David and to meet the people who were with him. And when David came near to the people, he greeted them. Then all the wicked and worthless fellows among the men who had gone with David said, because they did not go with us, we will not give them any of the spoil that we have recovered, except that each man may lead away his wife and children and depart. But David said, you shall not do so, my brothers, with what the Lord has given us. He has preserved us and given into our hand the band that came against us. Who would listen to you in this matter? For as his share is who goes down into the battle, so shall his share be who stays by the baggage. They shall share alike. And he made it a statute and a rule for Israel from that day forward to this day.
Do you think that was good?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm kind of on side with him here. I understand that someone could take advantage of this and like pretend to be far more tired than they are. But it seems like these guys wanted to contribute and couldn't. And it's like, what? These guys don't get their wives back? Sorry. Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting because, and I was making the joke or whatever, like that, those guys who stayed behind, their wives are going to give them crap to deal with or whatever. But it says the wicked and the worthless are among the ones that did go down to battle. Like, so, I mean, I don't know, exactly how to take that, but not everybody's, even within David's army of fighters, it's not like all high quality, virtuous men, but.
Right. And try to figure out, like, I just think about turning all of this stuff into a movie, like to try to play it out in my head. And when I do that, it's like you could have some of the people who are now upset that these guys get their wives back could be some of the same guys who are ready to kill David right before, like at the beginning of this story. Remember? It says that some of his own men wanted to stone him.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of one of these things that is like a rule that it advances your civilization in some ways, because it's like the Amalekites, they're abandoning their slaves as soon as they become inconvenient. They can't like fathom the idea of like, if I stick with this person who's temporarily like incapacitated, they will have future value that will contribute. Like, it's so short-sighted, they don't have anybody protecting because I mean, they were doing all the same thing. They were all raiding, and then they were all partying. And like, if they were smart, they would have had their loot, collected someone, and there would have been some portion of the men that were like on guard. They didn't have any scouts or anything, they are just, they are, and maybe this is something about like the thing of like forgetting and remembering, like they're like so present focused and totally driven by their immediate impulses, and creating just a rule like this of like, hey, no, those who got, protect the baggage, like they have a part too. It's like what makes the world actually run and flourish is, things like that.
Right. And where there is room for people to be sick, there's room.
Yeah.
Like, we don't just kill you, cut you out, say you don't get anything. Yeah. Jason, do you have any comments on that?
Nope.
Okay, then finish us off.
All right. When David came to Ziklag, he sent part of the spoil to his friends, the elders of Judah, saying, "Here is a present for you from the spoil of the enemies of the Lord." It was for those in Bethel, in Ramoth of the Negeb, in Yatir, in Aor, I don't know, in Sifmoth, in Eshtemoa, in Rekal, in the cities of the Yerahmeelites, in the cities of the Kenites, in Hormah, in Bor-Ashan, in Atak, in Hebron, for all the places where David and his men had roamed. Sorry about all
So
this.
he takes from this and gives a gift. Okay. So there's this image, because this is actually going to, like, part of what I think we're supposed to be seeing is David's desire to have peace. Even though he's doing all this battling, he does these things that are going to create peace in the long run, right? So these people who were too tired to participate in the raid, David doesn't want those guys excluded, right? And he, after he does this raid, they get a bunch of stuff that would have been what the raiders already had, okay? So it seems like David actually benefits from this, but he sends part of that as a gift to the other heads of Judah, so that, and these other people that have been good to him, so that he's creating peace in the long run, right? And once Saul is dead, David will do his best to kill the minimum number of those who are his enemies, because he wants all of Israel and all of Benjamin to be on side with him, right? Peterson said this somewhere, where Peterson said, like, when you get in an argument with your wife, you don't want to win fully, because if you win too much, what is left of, like, you still have to live with this person. So you don't want to utterly destroy them and you completely get rid of them. You want the other person to still like you and to still be on side with you. And that's part of what David's mentality is in these stories. He isn't just going to beat his enemies. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm just going to say, except for the Amalekites.
Except for the Amalekites. Well, and yeah, there's questions to be had there. But again, even that story is calling back to a previous story where David is righting a kind of wrong.
I'm curious. I'm also kind of curious. This is another total side trail from the text. But if there's a connection between the mindset or the spirit of Amalek, not the genealogy, and Nimrod. Like the whole idea of preying on the weak and him being a hunter. You don't think so?
I don't think so, because Nimrod was a civilization builder. And like that's, can be like a totalitarian sort of power. But it's putting them, that's like, somebody that puts themselves in the place of God. But it's not like this selfish raider mentality is very different, because they never build anything.
Does this selfish raider mentality kind of strike you as like a parasite or like a tick or a leech or something? I'm trying to frame this in my head the way it like actually helps me. I don't know.
I mean, I think it's. I don't know. It's not.
It's hard for me to conceive of a thing that should be forgotten, or that. I think this gets into the conversation earlier too, with the whole annihilationist thing too. It's like, is there one thing that God wants to just?
I think in some ways we've done a pretty good job of forgetting that kind of stuff. Like, we're pretty swift at punishing people. I mean, it's kind of the problem where people talk about like this, like those DAs that want to release all the criminals or whatever, and like, repeat offenders. Like, it's like, that's why, like, the idea of like a 3 strikes law or something like that, it's like, you're in prison for life after, repeat offenses, is because maybe there is something about a kind of person that they can't, unless if like it's a radical God thing, there's no like societal improvement that's going to fix some people's behavior. And it doesn't mean like it doesn't mean we should hate them. We should feel pity for them. But that's like, that's the thing. It's like there's some people you do not want to let around your kids, no matter what. Like, and if you have a certain track record, it should disqualify you forever from certain positions and, opportunities. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's something you have to do for the good of the weak, really.
Right. And I think Christians are a little bit guilty about this regarding the ministry, because people will have sex scandals, and then if they just give the right apology, we just move forward. And it's like, guys, there's some things that discredit you as a leader. Like, and you have to live with those consequences forever. God forgives Adam, but he's still got to live with the and I'm totally open to this idea that Cain is even repentant. You still got to live with the consequences of the world that you created.
Yeah. Because it wouldn't be good for you to be back in the garden. It would be worse for you to be back in the garden.
Right. You don't want to live forever in a state where things are bad.
It's like, putting a pile of cocaine in front of somebody and, who's got a problem. It's like, you're not doing them a favor.
Okay. I want to read something specifically for Jason. Okay. This is just the symbol. This is if you're reading the Wikipedia page. Okay. According to the Midrash, every nation on earth has a guardian angel overseeing its destiny, except for two. Israel rejected Archangel Michael as its guardian in favor of God himself. So Michael is supposed to be the angel that's over Israel. The other is Amalek, since his guardian angel is the foremost angel of evil, Satan. The final war, therefore, will be fought between the children of God and the children of Satan, between good and evil.
The children of the accuser, right? Or what does Satan mean in Hebrew? It's like adversary.
Yeah. The enemy, the accuser. Yeah. So without a doubt, there's some people that were identifying Amalek as the spirit of
the spirit of so that the mindset, okay. And that reminds me of when Jesus says, "You are the sons of your father, the devil, for he is the father of lies," or something like that. I feel like there's a way. That.
Well, I also think in that sense of like the thing that I think kind of like that when they're talking about universalism and all that stuff later, and it's like, why does like the serpent ultimately have to be like thrown into the lake of fire and all that? It's because like his nature is like pure rebellion or whatever. And that's that thing, like why like an Amalekite, it's different than like a Nimrod, because like Nimrod's building a tower to put himself in the place of God. Like Satan is just rebellion all the time, like to the point where it doesn't even make sense. It's not even smart. Like he just can't, can't help himself or whatever. And I think like
that's present in Paralandra, where Lewis does a bunch of effort where he's just like, Satan is not like Milton's Satan, this very clever and like thing that where you see him as very cool. Instead, he's like a 3-year-old, where he like when he's on Paralandra, he comes across, I think it's like a frog that's been skinned alive, where it's like
then he finds a trail of them,
because just ripping the wind with flies and like torturing just for the sake of torture, and just annoying for the sake of annoying. So
when he just keeps saying ransom.
What? And he's just like, nothing. Ransom. And he just does it for hours because he's just, Anyway,
Yeah.
so this is a great little chunk. We even got Jason to join us.
Yeah. I would join every time, but it's like smack in the middle of the day, and it's like
Look,
sometimes I
Michael
can take a
shifts when
break.
his lunches. Okay, Michael knows
Yeah.
how to make this a priority.
Sometimes I can take a break if I don't have like stuff pressing, but so like right now I still have more work to do, but I just yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm about to run off to work too. Whereas Michael is just going to drink some more tea.
Oh,
That's
nice.
all he's going to do.
Nice. Have fun.
Okay,
Might
this
want
was a
to
real
talk.
blessing for us to be able to talk together. Michael, would you please pray for Cassandra? I think we should end praying for Cassandra, as that's why she cut out. She's dealing with an earthquake. There's a tsunami warning, and it is yeah. Please pray for her.
Okay.
Lead us in praying for her.
Okay. Heavenly Father, we come before you in prayer to ask for protection for Cassandra, for her home, and everyone in her her town and that area of the country being affected. That you would just protect the people from loss, from illness, or injury and death, and that the cleanup would be successful. That there would not be a permanently devastating impact from this, that you would keep those people safe, and just pray that you would work in the community, help the right people find the help they need, and take care of everything. We pray in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
It's interesting. We're talking about a story where destruction comes, and then the end of the story is God bringing everyone back. Yeah.
On a side note, we should set up a some sort of talk about Me Without You lyrics and go through those, because I know you're a fan.
Yeah. I think you and I
Fun.
should select maybe like 6 songs each, and we should go through them. I'd be very up for that.
Probably I'm just guessing here, but I would think Emily probably listened to them, and maybe Chad the Alcoholic as well. Maybe. I know
If
Mitch
they
has,
don't, they
though.
should. Yeah.
Mitch has been to their concerts. We could pull him in. Yeah, they definitely should. It's true.
I'll bring my poet friend. I have a friend who is a poet, and he introduced me to them.
Yeah.
Yoav, you came. Did you come back to share anything with us in particular?
Yes, I want to highlight one of those comments from Yon God that is just amazing. It was worthwhile joining this group just for this subtle comment about the similarity between David and Apollo. I mean, it's something that it will take me the whole week just to process now.
I'm not as familiar with Apollo, but I would like to hear that unpack some more, maybe next time or something.
It's up to Yon God. It's his theory, not mine. I'm just highlighting and saying that this Yon God is a genius.
Speaking of,
this is the thing that I have said, is that because he's so silly, some people just dismiss what he's talking about. And I'm like, no. He's getting at something. Even when he's completely wrong, he is wrong in a very interesting way that can lead to a lot of self-reflection. He's not just like regular wrong. He's wrong in the right way, guys.
He is bright, and that was fun at listening to him on that last one. He needs to come around more. Also, he has a very nice voice listening to it. It's fun listening to him.
Because I haven't been suspecting for years that the myth of Apollo comes from the Middle East.
Okay.
But it doesn't have to do with this discussion at all.
I mean, maybe this is something to reflect upon. Isn't the descendant of David is compared to is called the day spring, like is called the sunrise? There's a place where it's in a Christmas song.
Wait, what is this?
Where
Wait, what did you ask?
where the Messiah is called Dayspring.
The day spring from on high.
Well, I don't
think I've heard
know.
that phrase before too. I think.
Look, yeah.
From on
Okay.
high. Let's see. Is it Luke? Is that what you're thinking about? Luke's.
I don't know. Look, I gotta go. This
Right,
is
me
very
too.
interesting, and maybe this is how we should start next week. So Yoav, you marinate in it because we only get Yon God when the planets align. Okay.
Mercury's in retrograde. I think Mercury is still in retrograde.
Don't
All right.
you tell me about that stuff. Look, you
Yeah,
are.
you should
you're-
know if you're planning travel. Don't travel when Mercury's in retrograde.
Thank you for that advice. Okay, we're
Yeah.
gonna leave. Thank you, gentlemen. I'll see you next week, where maybe we'll talk about Apollo. Good, but we'll definitely talk about the next chapters, the next section, and the death of Saul on his own spear. See you guys. Blessings.
See ya.